Well, welcome into Whole Backstage Live. We are back in the studio after a holiday break, and I can't be more excited for you to hear this interview with an exceptional young actress who is just a treasure to our family here at WBS. Her stage presence is mesmerizing, and her vocals are unmatched. I'm so happy for you to hear her process, her workflow, and her thoughts on being a performer and preparing for different roles or shows. Her childhood experiences of moving with her family and being involved in different theater programs in different states give her a rounded perspective on discovering theater and having a love of this art form that allows her to truly enjoy the moment wherever she may find herself. We talk about growing up in Guntersville before moving to Chicago, then to Arizona, then to Florida, where she was part of an intense AMT program. We talk about her theater experiences at Guntersville High School and here at the Whole Backstage. Part 2 of the interview will touch on her move to New York City and all of the excitement of that new journey. It was truly a pleasure to sit down with and learn more from our very own Anaya Havis. Yeah. People want something to watch.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun. I'm glad I
can come too. It will be fun.
So,
I'm so excited.
What did you think? You haven't heard any of them?
Mm-mm.
So what did you think when I said, do you want to do a podcast with me?
I was really excited because I've never been asked to do that before. It was like, I don't know, it made me feel important, kind of. It made me feel like, I don't know, like a celebrity.
Yeah. Well, that's the point of these with, like, what I want to do is make the Whole Backstage more accessible, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess the platform I chose to do that this time is like interviewing interesting people that have come through here, that are a part of our family, that have some connection with the Whole Backstage. So I don't know, people who I think are interesting that have something to say. So that's why we're here. Well, yeah. I mean, I was talking to, I forgot who it was, but I was saying, I have to interview Anaya before she leaves for school because I feel like I'll never see her again. I mean, it's a long way. So I know that's not true, but it feels that way. So I was like, somebody I know who I've been in shows with, moving to New York to study acting is interesting to me. I want to know about the process. I want to know, what's happening. So when did you get to Guntersville though? You came during high school, right?
Yes, I was born in Huntsville, so I went to Guntersville Elementary.
Me too.
Oh, really? Awesome. But I was here for elementary school, and I moved away, and I've lived a bunch of places because my mom, she's never wanted to sit still. So I've lived in Chicago, Florida, Arizona, most recently Florida, and then I moved here about midway through my junior year, and so I knew most of the kids, but I didn't know if they remembered me. So I was like, oh, that's my best friend from second grade. I don't know. Yeah.
I didn't realize you had a young history here and then moved back after a period of time. That's cool.
My first experience here was actually, I think, at a little week-long camp with Kelly Brook. Once on this Island Junior, was like a little, I don't know, we were painting faces and stuff. It was like when I was really young. That's all I remember from it, though. Yeah. And that was my first experience with theater, but it was a long time ago, and I didn't remember it until recently, but yeah. So I did come back.
And was that here in this building?
Yes, it was here in this building. I remember being in the reception room, and there was this guy, I think he was a teenager, and he had like this rainbow afro, like clown afro, and I just can't remember his name, but that's the only thing I remember about summer camp here.
Like one of the people working with her that time?
Like one of the counselors or
He was
something.
wearing a rainbow clown afro.
Yes, he was. And our song was Singing in the Rain, and I think that was what we presented at the end. It was a little recital type thing, but yeah.
So were there different groups that worked on different skits or whatever for the week or the time period?
Yes, there were different groups, and then we would just like rotate rooms. I'm not really sure. I don't really remember all of it. I just remember having the same guy for like a week, and it was the rainbow afro
It was
clown.
the rainbow clown
Yeah.
guy.
And yeah, it was really fun. And I remember painting faces, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But-
That's fun. And that was that was before you left?
Yes, that was before I left. I left around like 3rd or 4th grade to live in Chicago, and I didn't get back into theater until one summer, April. My aunt, she was like, "Hey, I think Anaya would have fun doing this," and I was like, "Why? I've never done it before," and it was the summer camp with Kelly Brook Brown here at the whole backstage.
Yeah.
And it was Once on This Island Junior, and I was like, I'll do it as long as I don't have to sing by myself, you know. And April was like, no, they're just going to walk around and listen to everybody sing at the same time. Like, you're not going to have to sing by yourself.
Oh.
And so I get here, and everybody has to sing individually. It doesn't matter who you are or if you just got your tonsils taken out.
Totally different than what you thought.
Yeah, so I was mad at first. I was like, April, she knew I wasn't going to have to do this and didn't tell me. And then so I get up, and I didn't have a song prepared or anything, but I got up, and I think it was Grant, Kennedy, and a couple of the other kids that used to go here sitting up there. And I remember the only song I knew from a musical was Seasons of Love from Rent.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I just sang the chorus, and it was the quietest thing ever, to the point like Thomas, like he was trying to sing along with me, and I was like, oh God, I don't know what I'm going to do now. But it was fine. I got ensemble.
Sure.
Yeah, but it ended up being really, really fun. I had the most fun in ensemble,
That's good.
and I never stopped. It was just the most fun experience I had in a week, and I never wanted to stop from that point forward.
Yeah.
So
That as awkward as you might have felt coming into a situation totally different than what you thought, it still hooked you.
yeah, it definitely gave me bubble guts, but I did.
Yeah.
After I just accepted my fate, I guess, because after a while they were like, okay, we're going to stop asking for volunteers and just go down the list. I was like, oh, yay.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere on the list.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I owe this all to April for like just saying, oh, this will be fun. Go do this. And not telling me that I'd have, because if she would have told me that I would have had to sing by myself, I probably wouldn't have done it. So,
And now that's no problem.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's fun. So what was, so from there, let's see, how close was that to when you had to move to Chicago?
Well, there was a whole move in between that. I think I lived in Arizona at this point because we came back for summers every year.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I came back to see my dad and grandma, and so I would just do camps over the summer here. So I did Once on This Island and Shrek the next summer. And Shrek, I remember, was the summer before high school. So that was Florida. It's all very confusing, like the moving history.
That's interesting. So I'm connecting the dots too because I just met you in October when we did Little Shop. So a lot of this I didn't know about. So that's why I'm here, because it's an interesting story. I want to hear because. So how was I may ask in a weird order because I don't know the timeline.
No, that's
as
fine.
well. So how was Chicago?
Oh, Chicago.
And how long were you there?
I lived in Chicago for 2 years. I think living in Chicago definitely opened my mind a little bit because I never wanted to live there. I'd only lived in Alabama my whole life, and I was the one who took the move the hardest. Like, I didn't want to leave my family. And then after I sort of got used to it and my family came and visited me up there and I realized it wasn't the end of the world, I just grew to love it. It made me realize that a city is kind of where I'm meant to be, like, because I'm meant to be where, like, everything's happening. Like, you can walk down the street and there's a million different things happening. Like,
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why, because I knew I wanted to go to school in Chicago or New York because, I mean,
Even then?
Yeah, just the culture over there, it's just like you can walk past 100 people and never see them again, and then walk past another 100 people, and then one of them might turn out to be your best friend, and one of them might turn out to, it doesn't matter. Like, and then there's literally, you'll never run out of things to do, like, ever. Like, you'll never run out of things to do. I remember one day in Chicago, there was like a kite day in like the middle of some random, I think it was Millennium Park, and they just had these volunteers like making paper kites, and I just thought, this is so random. Like, hundreds of people came together and fly kites, and then next week it's going to be something completely different. Like, it's going to be a concert in this park, and
Yeah.
I just think that's awesome. Like, having a plethora of things to do.
I thought Chicago was really neat when I was there. At the park you're talking about, of course, you have to go stand next to that big reflective bean and take your picture.
Yes.
And then there's that shell-looking amphitheater area there.
Yes.
And that, that's a big open area that is just really cool to visit. Because, well, I enjoyed Caribou Coffee right across the street. I was a Caribou Coffee fan for a little while. I haven't had it in a while, but it's pretty good. Also, I had my picture made with an American Girl doll in that store because it was. So, I don't know why, but I was up there. Me and one of my friends went. Another guy. So we were like, "What do we do?"
Yeah.
and I had been. I think my sister was an American Girl fan and stuff like that. So I thought, this would be something funny to take home.
Right.
And it's lost now, which is probably for the best. But anyways.
It's like, I'm out with my buddy. What can we do?
Yeah.
Go to the American Girl doll store.
He was up there. I didn't know this at the time. But he was up there to interview for a TV show.
Right.
But he told me it was like it's something else. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know. Things slip past me kind of easily sometimes. So, it was a cool trip. And then I found out he was on Survivor, and that was why he was in Chicago, was
that is awesome.
interviewing or auditioning for that.
Yeah.
And he never said a word to me. Like, he was totally loyal to whatever agreement he made with them. Mm-hmm. Like, I had no clue until I saw him on the show.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So, awesome says you.
Well, yeah.
Betrayal says no.
That's true.
Oh, man.
That's another thing about cities. Like, there's a bunch of like opportunities. I know my sister, she auditioned to be like on MasterChef Junior while we lived in Chicago, and she got pretty far. She got to meet Gordon Ramsay and stuff.
Wow.
I think she got cut on like one of the last rounds, but it was because of something weird, like paperwork or something, but it wasn't because
I hate that.
Yeah, she was a very spunky kid. Like, I mean, I'd like to think they would have chosen her. But all three of the siblings, me, my sister, and my brother, auditioned, and I wasn't that into it because I literally remember the interviewers, they walked around and they had us all cook an egg, and whoever did it in like the most creative way, like, I mean,
like, this is before it even gets to TV. They're just wondering if you're interesting enough to put on TV.
Yes,
at this point.
Yes, they give you a number and then they send you in this room, and there's like pans everywhere and like tiny little ovens, and they're like, just cook this egg, do whatever you want with it, be creative, And I think, I don't really know much. I can either scramble it or fry it and hope it doesn't look like terrible. So
right.
I fry it, and it looks like, edible food.
Do you break the yolk or just let it cook?
I just let it cook. I try not to let it break, just because that's the way I like to do it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, to each their own. But I usually end up breaking it anyways, against my will. But, yeah, they came around to me and they were asking me questions. They were like, so out of your family, who do you think is the best chef? And I was like, my sister. Like, I wasn't even trying. And they were like, so you don't even think, like, you have a fighting chance against your... I was like, no, I think she's the best chef, definitely. And they were like, oh, so who's the sassiest? I was like, my sister. And they were just trying to give me something to make me interesting. And I was just not catching it. I was just being honest. I was like,
sure,
yeah, she's the best cook. Yeah, and then so I got to watch her go throughout the rest of the audition process. Like, she got to go to like this penthouse, and they were like, cook something, and they recorded her and stuff, and they were like asking her questions while she was cooking, and she made like Cajun pasta, and they were like asking her about her gymnastics, and she was like, yes, I'm a gymnast. And if you can't tell, I'm like cooking Cajun pasta with this hand motion.
I got that. Yep. for everybody just listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's like,
I like to do full on cooking Cajun pasta on the table right now.
I like to do cartwheels and cook lamb and stuff like that, like stuff that makes her interesting. And yeah, she got pretty far.
So did y'all get to go? Were you there watching her, or did she come back and get to tell you about this?
Oh no, we were watching her on a couch, and she was in
cool.
She was in the kitchen with all the lights and stuff, and me, my brother.
So y'all getting to see on a monitor?
We were like in the room
with
the camera, but most of the stuff she had to do by herself. But that was just one of the things that we got to watch. But yeah, that was interesting.
Awesome.
I never believed her because obviously I didn't get to meet Gordon Ramsay, but the kids who got selected to go into the next round got to meet Gordon Ramsay. So I've never believed her, but she will swear that she met Gordon Ramsay. So
Of course. Mm-hmm. Me too. I've met him.
Really?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't know what to do if I met somebody like that. Like, talking to Grant, and I had an interview with Adam Carboni also, who works with, people in the goodness, I'm trying to slow down and be more articulate if I ever want to keep doing this. But like, he works with people in the entertainment industry, and he comes across, household names in his work. And I asked them both. I was like, so have you ever run into anyone that you were super excited to meet, or is it just a regular day? And, Grant made the point. He's like, well, if, you can meet people, but you got to read the situation, right? Don't walk up to somebody who just almost got hit by a bus and ask for a picture.
Right.
They're a person too, trying to make a living in the city. So everybody approaches that different ways. But if I ran into Gordon Ramsay, I would be like, hello?
I'd be scared. I'd be scared of saying something wrong, and he'd be like, you donut. Like, I don't. But yeah, one time my mom chased down a woman in Chicago that she thought was Megan Fox. She was not Megan Fox. So she ended up just running after this woman. But she was like, has anyone ever told you that you look almost exactly like Megan Fox? And she was like, yes. People tell me that all the time. But I'm not. And then so my mom just had to walk back to the car because we were stuck in traffic, and she just ran down the street.
Sure.
Yeah. And
what else do you do when you're stuck in traffic?
Yeah. I guess go try to catch Megan Fox.
Yeah. Got to do something to pass the time.
Yeah.
Well, so that reminds me of that scene in Elf. You remember when he's running after that guy in the red sweatsuit, and he's like, Santa!
Yes.
Oh, not Santa. Okay, bye. And something else I just thought of while you were talking. This happens all the time. Mm-hmm. I have a thought, and then it just
It's all good. I forget my thoughts all the time. And then I try to run it back, like think of all the thoughts I had leading up to that thought.
Yep.
And half the time it works, half the time it doesn't.
Jeez. So, all this happened in Chicago. While you're coming back and hanging out during the summer. Mm-hmm. And then you go to Arizona?
Yes.
Where in Arizona?
Goodyear, Arizona. It's like near Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about the only thing you can do there with your friends is you can walk about a mile to the nearest like donut shop, or you can go to like this theater. It's like a Hawkins movie theater. So every weekend we would just like either go watch a movie or like walk to Ribbons. It was the nearest tea cafe thing. Mm-hmm. But there wasn't a lot to do. We got really good at cards, got really good at spades and speed, and that was about all we did. But I remember Arizona was one of my favorite places to live, and I really didn't want to leave there because I got really into band and theater there as well, because after I'd started rolling the ball with Once on This Island Junior, I auditioned for my first like school play, The Lion King Jr., and then I actually got a part. I got to play Rafiki, and I was so excited. I was like, oh wow, like I could actually do this. Like it's working out, you know.
I think that would be a super fun part.
It was. I remember I had never sang in front of my mom, and after I auditioned, she was like, so are you going to sing it for me, or like, when do I get to hear it? And I don't know why I've always been like this, but I can't sing or practice in front of my family. Like, if you want to hear me sing, you have to come and buy a ticket.
No, I get that. I
cannot do it at home. It's so embarrassing. Like, my family, I imagine them as my biggest critics, but they're really just my biggest fans. And I was just like, you're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to wait. And she had never heard me sing before. And I got the first song, Circle of Life. And I remember she just tells me, as soon as you start, I just started bawling because I did not know you could sing like that. Like, it was just so surprising. And she recorded about the whole thing. And looking back, I'll watch those videos and I'll be like, this is bad. But it was really good for me then. So that was one of my favorites because it was my first speaking role and kind of got me started. Kind of made me believe in myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember my first rehearsal. I was singing, and you know the first song in Lion King, it's like, Nan Singonya. And then, so you have to like yell that. It's kind of like a belt thing. And I remember I was so nervous for my first rehearsal, and that's the first song we practiced because it's the first song. and I was just whispering it, and Miss Farrington stopped the music, and she was like, Anaya, I know that you're louder than this, and I know you're scared to make a sound, but just don't be. Nobody's going to laugh. If you crack, it's fine. Everybody does it. Just do it. And I just did it, and I did not know that I could make those sounds. And then from then on, I just never stopped being loud. So I was never quiet again.
Well, that's one thing I love about theater, and especially junior theater like that, is you don't know what you can do until you are put in a situation where that's what is demanded. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Little Shop, that happened with me a ton. Like, I've never done some of that stuff before, and I almost, didn't know that I could until I had to. So same thing. I mean, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And I love that we had, well, you had that opportunity there, but I love that we, can provide those opportunities here also for, like, I think we just closed Willy Wonka, and we had 86 kids
that is
on
amazing.
That stage.
Yeah.
And Kristen and John Davis did a great job front to back, just bringing, allowing as many kids as possible to participate, right? So one thing that was really cool was the junior production staff. So they had the kids ran that show after it got going. So really, Kristen and John Davis kind of put things in place, and the kids took it over. Like, you had a kid, a junior director, stage manager, soundboard, light board. I mean, and it was funny. After the show one night, the kids were kind of playing on the stage after they go and meet the audience, and they were playing, doing something. They might have been reenacting part of the show, but the lights changed on stage. Like, the house darkened and the lights came up on the stage, and I looked up, and 8-year-old Michael, who had run the lights for the show, was up there. And he had changed the lights so that they could, just while they were playing, they had like show lights. And he saw, and he changed, and I looked up there and called him, like, he was looking and he was laughing, kind of pointing at him, and then he walked out. Like, that was, they were just having fun.
Yeah.
So I think it's great to, when people have those opportunities, and it like opens up something for you that you maybe didn't know about before.
Yeah, I definitely think junior theater is one of the most like important things about this theater, because I mean, you can get 86 kids to get up on stage, and some kids are going to drop it. Some kids are going to decide, theater may not be for me. Maybe I'm a swimmer, or whatever. But some kids, they needed that to discover something they didn't know they could do or enjoyed, like it was for me. Like, I would have never just walked out and picked this up if it wasn't for somebody who told me it would be fun. And it's not for everybody, but I feel like it is for a lot of people who haven't found out yet,
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people who go their whole life without finding like a passion, or like at least like a hobby they really enjoy. And I think this could be it for a lot of people that just haven't found it yet. And maybe that's just me being optimistic about it. I was like, everybody likes theater, but I really do think it's missing in a lot of people, and it just takes a couple kids to figure it out.
Yeah.
And even if it's like not the, highest level of theater, like, it takes that to get everybody started, And,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, your story, I mean, with April just mentioning, hey, this might be fun for you. I tend to maybe put too much faith in our outreach efforts sometimes. Like, if I say, oh, well, we put an ad on Facebook, or it's been in the paper a couple of weeks, we had a banner on the side of the road, we sent an email out to all our patrons. I mean, I tend to put too much faith in that stuff sometimes and think, well, everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
And I underestimate the personal connection that it takes. Maybe April knew about it, but you didn't, so she just passed it on. So I underestimate that sometimes, but I think that's really important.
Yes. We definitely need to do a lot of the advertising ourselves, because a lot of people do see it on Facebook or see it on the street, and they're like, oh yeah, I saw that poster and I was thinking about it, but they're always just very, hesitant. They need like one person to be like, just try it, and if you don't like it, it's fine. Just try. And like 9 times out of 10, like, you'll get to the end of the production at like Circle, and then you'll get people who've like, I've never been on a stage before, and let me tell y'all, this is the best time I've ever had of my life.
And those people you never know.
Yeah.
Like when they say that, you're like, you've never, what? Are you kidding me?
And you never expect it from them. But yeah, I think it takes just one person to be like, yes, you should go do it, because there's a lot of hesitance.
Yeah.
Because
I can't remember who it was, but one show we did, somebody said that towards the end. It was like, this is my first show. And I was like, you've been a pro this whole time. How is this your first show?
Right.
So yeah, that's, like you were talking about, people might see a poster or something and know about it, but then they're just kind of hesitant. It's like seeing those events that Facebook thinks you'll be interested in coming across, and then you click interested, and then you never see it again.
Right.
It's like, yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah. I remember, like, I was teching for Dearly Departed, and one of the main characters in it, she played the mother, and they were telling me about her. They were like, oh, yeah, she just, I think she saw it in the newspaper and just walked in, and she just decided, why not? And I was like, wow, that takes a courageous person, like, to just see something in the newspaper and just walk over there and like, yeah.
You are listening to Whole Backstage Live on WBSL Radio, recorded in Alabama's oldest continuously operating community theater. We bring you radio plays, vocal performances, interviews with performance art insiders, readings, comedy, and drama, all supported by our generous sponsors and people like you. Check the show description for a link to connect to all of our social media. Follow us for upcoming events and announcements, and to learn how you can be part of our mission to provide our community and surrounding areas with a positive outlet for the performing arts. Please make a point to subscribe or follow us so you are kept in the loop on new episodes. Just search Whole Backstage Live wherever you get podcasts, or visit wholebackstage.com and find the WBS Live podcast page under the Archives tab in the menu. Now, back to the wonderfully talented and extremely hardworking Anaya Havis.
My first audition, my first real audition, I was so nervous. I couldn't have just walked in without, like, preparing, because I kind of feel like I over-prepared for, like, my first real audition here was for Bye Bye Birdie, and I auditioned for Rosie originally, but I knew I was kind of like a little young, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. The worst they can say is no, and I'll still be in the show anyways, so it'll be fine. And
I saw the show, by the way. Fantastic job.
Thank you. So I learned all these songs, and you know how they have sample scripts on, like, the website? It'll be like, oh, we're going to be pulling these scenes for cold reads or whatever. I remember I printed out every single one, and I highlighted each character in a different color, and then depending on which character I wanted to read for in that scene, I would read that color. So if I wanted to read Ursula for this scene, I would read blue, or if I wanted to read Rosie for this scene, I'd read red. And I practiced them until I knew exactly how every line I wanted it to sound.
Wow.
And I came in, and they gave me a number, and I just remember I was like, oh no, like I was like, and I was the first one there because I didn't want to be late, so I was number 1, and it just scared me because I was like, oh, that means I'm going to be first, because I had never been to an audition where I got a number, and that was just crazy to me. And that was nowhere near the case. It was actually very laid back. It was like, hey, if you want to play Rosie, get up here and we'll just watch you sing. And it was like 5 of us. It was actually 4 on the first day, and I sang it, and it just relaxed me. As soon as I got up there and I was watching everybody, because I was the last one to go. Like, we were lined up in a row of 4, and I was the last one. And I just felt like, this is less scary than I thought. I don't know why I keep getting scared of these things. And then for the cold reads, since I had, like, printed it out and practiced it beforehand, there was this one line that was in Spanish. And they were like, so what scene do you want to read? And I was like, oh, I want to read the scene with the bartender. And I got to this one line, and I, like, just ran through it in Spanish. Like, I looked up the translation and everything, and they were like, that was awesome. Do you speak Spanish? I was like, no. But,
I speak that line much.
I speak that line. Like, I know about that much of Spanish. And then after that, I was like, oh, it's not that deep. I still like to prepare, but I was really scared.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, so listening to how detailed you got into that, it, like, that, to me, seems to be the level of preparation that'll get you whatever you want. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, there are other factors, but for somebody to see that kind of dedication, if nothing else, I'm sure at like in some audition, sometimes somebody will say, I want somebody who works like that in my show, you know?
Yeah.
We'll figure the rest out.
Yeah.
But she wants to be here.
Yeah.
You know?
Thank
like, that's
you.
got to count for something.
Yeah. I like, for auditioning, I want it, let's just say, if I don't get a part, I don't want it to be because I was unprepared. I want it to be because maybe I wasn't suited for it, or maybe like I hit a wrong note, or like I want it to be because of, I don't want it to be because of something I could have controlled, you know?
Right.
Right.
I totally get that.
So I can't. So then I can't blame it on myself. Like then, if I don't get that part, I was like, oh, she's better suited for it. I don't want it to be because, oh yeah, I learned the song yesterday, and you know, I forgot that one line, and it was really bad. And as far as that goes, being prepared, I remember Miss A told me, because after I got Esmeralda for my high school play, I was so excited about it. I printed out my own script, because our scripts were taking a long time to come in. Like, we didn't get them until like 3 months after auditions, our scripts.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I went online. May not have been the most, approved way. Like, I just found one and I printed it out, but I wasn't selling it, so it was, still fine. But I printed it out, I highlighted all my lines, and I made a Quizlet. And so what I do is I put my cue line on one side of the flashcard, and then I put my line on the other side of the flashcard. And so I go through the entire flashcard sequence, and by the end of it, I should be able to just hear my cue line about, it could be like a what, and if I can see if it was in Act 1, Scene 4, and who said it, even if it's just one word, I should be able to know what it is. And I was off book within the month that I got that part.
Of course,
and,
yeah.
And Miss A was like, everybody, just so you know, Anaya's already off book. So she's set the standard. And
so catch up.
Yeah, this is your new deadline, like March, whatever. But yeah, and she was like, I just want you to know, like, even if you can't, compete with another person vocally, stuff like this will get you booked every time. Like, if they know you're willing to work more than another person, it will get you booked. And so that's what I've been trying to do. Like, stuff that I can't control, you can't control. But things that I can control is being prepared. Yeah. So you get off
just coming up with that on your own.
Yeah.
And not, a lot of people might figure that stuff out after a lot of experience or coaching, but just coming up with that on your own, oh my gosh, that's deep. That's incredible.
Thank you.
That's gonna be important. So we were at Lion King in Arizona.
Yes. You thought of what you were going to say?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
How long were you there?
Wow. Every place I've moved has been about a 2-year stretch.
About
so I did
2 years.
2 years in Chicago, then 2 years in Arizona, then maybe 2.5 in Florida, and then
back here?
Yes.
Where'd you live in Florida?
I lived in Weston, Florida. It was about 40 minutes from Miami, so it was South Florida.
Wow.
Yes.
Way down there.
Yeah.
Did you go to Miami ever?
Yes, we went like maybe every weekend, because my mom loves the beach. She loves the beach. And it's just, South Florida is like the only part of the South that isn't the South.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's like Southern. It's like very, very very Latin, and it's very all the food is different. Like, it's all Cuban food and Hispanic food, and it's just all this beautiful culture and all these like murals and beaches, and it's like you're in a different world down there. Like, even though you're still in the South of America, it's like a different world.
I've heard that about the Key West. Like, if you go off the southern coast of Florida, you can be like, it feels like you're in the islands. I mean, you are in the islands, but I mean, like, not the U.S. anymore. Yeah.
It's weird. Key West I've been there once, and I was like, if I ever imagine like what New Orleans would be like, this is kind of what I imagined it looking like. Like, the houses, I don't know. I've never been to New Orleans. I've always wanted to go, but that's kind of what I imagine it being. Because in Key West, it looks like they're at vacation all the time. Like, they just never go back to work.
Of course.
Like, they're just always
figure out how to make that work.
Yeah. They're just always eating key lime pie and just sitting in a recliner in their little inn. Like, that's their life.
Oh, man. Do you like key lime pie?
I did not like it. Do you like it?
I haven't. It's not one like if I'm out somewhere with multiple choices, I probably wouldn't pick it.
Yeah.
But I have had it. It's been a while. I guess it depends on where it comes from.
Yeah. It's just never been for
Or
me.
if there's a lot of meringue on top. Is that one they put meringue on, or is that lemon?
I don't know. I think it's lemon meringue, but I'm not sure.
I like meringue.
I don't know what meringue is, but it sounds good.
So it's the white fluffy stuff you put on top of pies, not whipped cream.
Okay, I was about to say like whipped cream.
And I don't know how to make it, but I think it's like an egg and some sugar, and then you whip it up and you toast it on top.
Oh, okay.
So lemon meringue pie is a pie, and I remember whenever somebody in my family made it, and I would just scoop that stuff off the top and eat it. And y'all can have the pie. I just want the fluffy white stuff.
Yeah. Key lime pie is like frozen yogurt for me. It's like ruining a good thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Just so you don't have to feel as bad when you eat it. Like, I don't know what that factor is. It's like, why is it bitter and sweet? Like, why does it it's a lime, you know? But, like, I like lemons more than limes because limes is like, I don't know, it's like a little poison. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got a little bite to it.
Yeah. But it's for some people.
So did you do any shows when you lived in Florida?
Yes. We had a really amazing AMT program at the school. So, like, there were community theaters around, but each camp was like $1,000. And I was like,
oh, wow.
I'm not paying $1,000.
Community theaters that doesn't really give the whole community a chance to participate.
It's like really just for one demographic of people. And then I would see their ads, and I was like, for $1,000 a kid, I mean, you should be putting out like Broadway level productions. And then I was looking at these pictures, and I was like, no, I can't even see where the money is going. And then so I just decided to do it in high school, and we had an American musical theater class, and that was the first time I'd heard of that being done at a school, because my other schools wouldn't have had it. They didn't have a course for that. And so basically your audition, every class, every freshman has to go into AMT 1, and my teacher was Cynthia Lutwin, and every class has a different show. And my freshman year, we had Into the Woods Junior. And every freshman class usually does a junior show just to get them dip their toes in the water. Yeah. And you basically, the first 3 months of school is all auditioning. Like, we're on an A-B schedule, but every class is still an hour and a half. And so the first round of audition, you get to pick your song, and you watch everybody. Everybody gets up there individually, and the whole class watches, you know, and it's in the auditorium. Next round of audition is dancing, because you do like 2 weeks of boot camp before auditions, which is an hour and a half worth of exercising.
Wow.
So boot camp, then sing individually, then dancing alone. You dance in like groups of 4, you learn choreo, and then you do like cold reads, and then you sing something from the show, and this whole process takes like 3 weeks. And then after you're done with the audition process, you get to wait like another week for the cast list. And it's just the most grueling process, but I really wanted to be the baker's wife, and I got it, so I was just really glad for that. And it was a new school with all new people, so I was just like, I just felt proud of myself. You know, it wasn't because like I knew somebody or I had this friend or because my mom was friends with whoever. Like, I literally had nobody.
Right.
And, you know, it was just amazing down there. She was one of my favorite teachers. And it was always really fun, even though it was still a high school production, you know, and a junior show, but it was all really fun.
Well, that sounds like a pretty intense program.
It was. She was a very fit person. She would get up at 4 a.m. To go cycling. And, you know, she just was like, if I'm at this level at 50, you can be there at 16. And every day we would do like 100 crunches, like, and we would count them. And we would, it was like aerobics class. And one of her things that is unique to like a theater teacher that I've never seen anybody else do, she was very impartial to line dancing. And so she was like, line dancing is just like musical theater. You're focusing on a lot of different things at different times, and if you mess up, you like everybody can see it. Like, and
so no pressure.
Yeah, it's like there's steps, and sometimes they change. You have to change directions, and if you want to sing along to the songs, like we had to sing along to the songs, and it was like these country songs, so I had no desire to like learn them, but still it was like a requirement. But yeah, it was all really fun. By the end of the year, you learn like 8 line dances, and I still know a lot of them, because by the time you're a senior, you have to teach them to the freshmen. And yeah, I've never seen anybody else do that. It was like her specific thing, but I really missed line dancing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
To equate line dancing to musical theater.
Yeah.
And use it to get people in the practice of like learning dancing and singing at the same time.
Yes. It was. It was. Because after an hour of exercising, the first thing you want to do is do a line dance. The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and that was our anthem as a class. Yeah.
Oh, God.
And it was a bunch of jumping around, like heel touches, and yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
Man, she sounds. Well, I was gonna say she sounds fun.
She is fun.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people are like, "Why? What did I come here for? What?"
Yeah.
I did not think this would be what it is.
At first, yeah, you come in the first day of school, the first day of boot camp, you're like, oh, I shouldn't need more than a water bottle, right? No.
Sure.
By the end of that week, you're like, you have your hydro flask out, you have a sports clothes on. Even if it's the first period of day, you better bring like leggings and sports attire because you're going to be sweating.
Oh, man. So you did Into the Woods.
Yes.
And, any other? Was that it there? Or
I only did 2 shows there. My second show was my sophomore year. It was Rock of Ages.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got the understudy role for Justice. And originally I was kind of disappointed about it because whoa. Sorry, I'm trying to slow down too.
It happens.
But I was the only sophomore in that class with a speaking part, so that I was proud of. But I was also a little down because I was like, I only get one night, But people really underestimate all that understudies have to do. Like even on Broadway, like understudies and swings, you have to learn your ensemble track, and with that, you have to learn a lead role track with no rehearsal time. Like you get maybe 1 out of 9 rehearsals a lead role gets, And it's really hard to keep track of it all, and it was definitely more challenging to me than having a lead role. Having an understudy role was more challenging than any of those. And then that was exactly when Corona hit, because COVID-19 hit like maybe 2 days before I was supposed to get my night. So I never I never got to perform.
Oh, no.
But it was... Yeah, because I remember my teacher saying, she was like, don't worry, understudies, you will get your night. Because nobody knew what it was,
Sure,
everybody
yeah.
thought we were going to go back. Like, it was going to be a 2-week break from school and we were going to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And we never went back.
Oh, man. I hate that.
It's okay.
I haven't thought about that, though, about understudies. Is that, like, I guess I just assumed that they would, the production staff would make sure understudies are just as prepared as the leads.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, there's some element of like, okay, you're the understudy. You just go figure it out, and we need you to know it if you ever have to use it.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot. Yeah. They trust you a lot to do a lot of that work on your own. 'Cause, it's your job to, do all that work on your own.
Yeah.
And you would just count on, I don't say this to be mean, but you would just wait for that person to be sick, or, wait for that person to be absent that day at school to like get your rehearsal time, because that's the only time you got to rehearse. Other times you were learning an ensemble track, and that's a whole different thing. You have to keep in different choreo, different words to the songs, different singing parts.
Yeah.
And it was definitely one of the hardest roles I've done. And it's not even that hard of a role, but just all the work you have to do as an understudy,
Mm-hmm.
all that remembering.
Got to learn 2 parts.
Yes, you do have to learn 2 parts, 2 separate characters, 2 separate tracks, and it's not for the faint of heart. And I'm at the end of the day, I'm really glad, even though I didn't get to perform, I'm really glad I got the experience of getting to be an understudy, because I kind of dismissed them at first. I hate to say it, but I was just kind of like, understudies, you kind of don't really have to do anything unless that person can't show up. No, you have to know everything.
You're doing everything
Yes.
that person's doing,
Mm-hmm.
and you may not ever get rewarded for it.
You may not ever get to see the fruit of that labor.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking, but you still have to know your stuff at the end of the day.
Well, Grant had a similar story about COVID. You know, he was finishing up his senior year at Auburn, and he got hired to do an off-Broadway show in Atlanta and had prepared. They were ready to go, and then shut it down.
That is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
To get one of your breaks. I mean, even an off-Broadway show, that's an amazing achievement. And then to have it kind of ripped out from under you. Because all of Broadway shut down. When you think of live theater was nowhere to be found for
right.
at least a year. And all of us were basically just sitting and waiting. Because, you could do the things like Zoom and stuff. And because I remember the beginning of my junior year, before I moved back to Alabama, we were still going to do that intense audition process in Florida, but it was all on Zoom. So we were still having to turn our cameras on. We were doing boot camp on Zoom, literally burpees, on a web camera. And we had to send in videos of our audition, and we would watch it as a class. And it's not the same. It's not that same, it's not the same experience. It's not as fun. That's one of the beautiful things of live theater. It's just so authentic. You feel all of the things at the same time as the other people.
Yeah.
And you just can't do that.
Well, and
digitally.
You were saying, that live theater includes live auditions.
Yeah.
And rehearsals and, that prep time.
Yeah.
Not just live on stage with an audience. So all of that stuff has its own element that is missed.
Yeah.
When it's not there.
Yeah, and you just don't appreciate it till it's gone. I remember I was so grateful to audition for Bye Bye Birdie because I was like, wow, we get to be in person and actually sing in front of people, in a room, and that's something I hated about auditions before, having to sit and watch everybody go up by themselves and then have your stomach do cartwheels as you're waiting for your turn. But now it's just I'm grateful because I everybody feels the same. Nobody can just do auditions without being nervous. I mean, if you can, kudos to you, but everybody gets nervous. And it's one of those bad feelings, but everybody around you is feeling it. So it's a kind of a comfort, but it's just one of those things that digital things can't mimic,
Yeah.
So I don't know. In-person theater is just unmatched. There's no way to.
Well, I've always gone into an audition thinking, some of them I go in thinking about a specific part or something like that. Some of them I go in thinking, I just want to be a part of the show. I don't care really what happens. But I when you said for that one audition you did, they asked you what scene you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I hate that. I just want, this is an audition. I want to show you what you want to see. You just tell me what to do.
Right.
It throws me off when I have to make a decision about what to show somebody.
Yeah.
Because implicit in that is something that I think I do well, and I don't know. I don't really. I guess I am self-conscious about coming across that way. This is what I want to present to you, because it's what I'm super good at.
Yeah.
I've prepared some things.
Yeah.
You tell me what you want to see, and I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Is I guess kind of my comfort zone.
Yeah, it's definitely different because I knew for that audition I wanted to be Rosie, so I wanted them to see me as that role. So I'd only, if they asked me if I wanted to read for anything, I would do a Rosie scene. But then you can go into an audition thinking you want one thing, and then by the third day you're like, hey, this character is actually really funny. I want to read for this one. So on the third day I was like, can I read for Ursula? Because I think she's hilarious. And they were like, yes. And I actually did not think I was going to get Ursula. I thought one of my friends was going to get her. And when I got it, I was just so excited because I didn't think they saw me as that role. But then when I finally read for it, I was like, okay, I can kind of see myself doing this a little more than,
that's good.
The main adult.
Because you did a great job in that role.
Thank you.
I remember, you say it was your first show here.
Yes.
So that makes sense that in my mind, I'm thinking that's the first time I've noticed, that how talented she is, because it was the first time you were
thank you.
Here. Hey everyone, just a quick time out to remind you to check out our production of Cheaper by the Dozen, running January 27th through February 5th. Directed by John Davis Rawlings and his student assistant director Dax Stapler, This heartwarming show features the talents of Mike Hallenbeck and the ever-enchanting Kristen Gillen, who keep their family of 12 children running just as efficiently as the factories their father helps to streamline. Also, do not miss Three on a String in concert one night only, February the 11th at the Holback Stage. Other performances coming this season include You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown in April, Into the Woods in June, and The Lion King Jr. in July. Make plans to join us for all this and more as we close our 49th consecutive season as your community theater. All tickets are available through holbackstage.com. Now, we wrap up part 1 of our interview with Anaya Havis. That's interesting how that unfolds sometimes. Is that like there have been shows that I've auditioned for that I've put on my audition form, this is the character that I want, and this is the order that I'm thinking of these characters in or whatever. And then I don't get cast for one of the top 1, 2, or 3. Yeah. I get cast as my number 4. Yeah. But and both times that's happened, I've the director's saying, how do you feel about it? Are you going to accept the role? And I'm talking to him, and I'm like, this is not what I wanted to do, but sure, let's see what happens. And then throughout the process, I realized they knew what they were doing. Exactly. They had a vision for the show, and I fit into that in a specific way that I didn't see. And, stepping into rehearsals and kind of developing, whether it's an accent or a character or whatever, and developing that chemistry with the other cast, it's like, okay, I see where you were going with this. Yes, because while you're focusing on like getting the right words and stuff during that audition, like you never see what they're seeing, and that's like a tough pill for anyone to swallow, but it's really the truth. Like, as much as you think you really want to play this role or think you're suited for this role, you're not seeing what they're seeing. And the director has the vision for their show. It may not be what you were envisioning as like who you wanted to be, and then it turns out to be something like so beautiful. That's like why every time a cast list comes out, there's always animosity and there's always people talking, and they're like, really? Like, so-and-so got this part? And it gets easier, like it gets easier to not have that negative talk, because I've seen so many times where people have been like, well, I think so-and-so should have gotten the part, or so-and-so definitely didn't deserve to get the lead for this show, or they're not suited for this. Yeah. And then it turns out, and then you just kind of look at that person, you're like, do you see like the error of your ways? Like, do you see now that they kind of knew what they were doing? Because the director, all they can ask is like, trust me, just trust that I have a vision in place. And a lot of people just won't do it. They're like, no, I mean, I see the show my way, and and I just try not to be a part of those conversations, because I'm like, even though that's not who I was expecting either, I kind of, because everybody kind of subconsciously casts a show, like while they're auditioning, they're like, dang, I bet she's gonna get this role, or she's gonna get this one. And then the cast list comes out and you're like, oh, this is not what I thought. But for me, I'm just like, it'll turn out, because they've got their own vision in place, and I just try not to be a part of all that, because then I don't want to be embarrassed at the end when it actually ends up being good. And and then those same people are like, you did so good, I could not imagine anybody else playing this role. Isn't that weird when you get that? Yes. It's like, I imagine somebody else playing this role, but or like when you think about cast in movies, like you see just a really spot on movie and the performances were incredible, and you're like, who else could have done that? Well, maybe somebody else, but not like that, exactly. And it's funny that you can get three different directors might cast a show 3 different ways. Exactly. And maybe all 3 would be a really good final product. You never know. But what you did put together was great. I mean, and like thinking about one thing like about auditions is that, and this may not be true every time, but the people auditioning don't see every day, maybe. They might see 1 or 2 days out of 3, but the director sees all 3 days. And yeah, there have been shows where I've thought, man, what are they thinking? But like I didn't see the other auditions, you know. So yeah, they, like you said, they have that 1,000-foot view, I guess.
Yeah.
Of what they want to put together as their cast for their show. And when you're directing a show, you can put together your cast, but you know.
That's what I've learned. Like, you just have to wait till you get in that seat, because that's a hard thing for anybody to do. Because like, even if you want to cast one person as this role, or maybe even if they're best suited for the role, like if they are supposed to have chemistry with another person, that's a whole different aspect to take into like the equation. And then you may not be able to cast that person as that person because these two have better chemistry and they look better together and they work better together. And then, like, that reminds me of the Hunchback auditions. Like, they pulled me, Mallory, Will, and Cooper all in the same room. Or it was Jacob Bodine. It was me, Mallory, Jacob Bodine, and Cooper. And she pulled us 4, and she had it boy, girl, boy, girl. And I was like, oh, I know what this is. But none of the other kids knew what she was doing. So they were just scared. They were just standing there, and they were looking around, and she wasn't saying anything. And she was like, okay, Cooper, can you stand where Jacob is now? Yeah, just switch. And I was like, oh, she's seeing how we look together, you know. And then afterwards, she was like, okay, you guys can leave. And then we left, and then Mallory was like, does that mean we're out? And I was like, no, she was just seeing how good we look together. And it ended up working out because apparently, I looked good with Jacob, and he got casted as Phoebus. He wasn't able to do it, but we looked good together. And then I always wonder, like, what if someone would have looked better with someone other than me? Because that's how they cast the show. They're not going to cast 2 people that just don't fit, you know.
Yeah. And but all of those things, all those technical aspects, and everything that might go into that decision makes sense, right? But here, anywhere in a small town, at a community theater, at a high school theater, you know, as a director, when you put out the cast list, you're going to hurt feelings.
Yes.
And they're going to be the feelings of people you know.
Yes.
And people you're friends with a lot of times. So that, I can't imagine. I don't want to be in that position.
No.
Like, no thanks.
That position here, because everybody's so close here, because it's like this community theater, being in a small town like this, and you're directing a show and all your friends are auditioning for your show. I can't imagine putting out a cast list, because that's got to be one of the hardest things
ideally,
ever.
In a perfect world, everybody would know up front.
Yeah.
We're a part of a theater that puts on shows, and we're going to have a different cast every time, right? I don't care if you were a lead in the last show. There might be new people auditioning, and you might be interested in a different part or whatever, different vision for the show, different director. I don't know. But in a perfect world, everybody would know what we're doing and know that you can't get the part you want every time.
Yeah.
And be okay with that.
Yeah.
But, you know,
that's never that's never the case.
We're not there.
No.
But, you know, I understand it being personal, too. You know, if somebody has gone through as much work as you go through getting ready for a part, like memorizing different parts and color coding and everything and thinking about how you want to do different things and then not getting that part, oh, gosh. I mean, I can understand. That'd be hard.
I mean, I've never walked out of an audition and like seen a cast list and like, you know, I've been on both sides. I've been really happy about it, and I've also been like, oh, but I've never been, you know, devastated, because I mean, a lot of people do get devastated and they'll like call me crying. They're like, can you believe this? Like, but I mean, I just have to put myself in the mindset, like, you're going to have fun either way. Like, sure, this might not have been what you envisioned, because I mean, I thought like I really wanted Rosie, but by the 3rd day, like, they were doing the same thing. They were pairing us up and seeing how we looked with each other, and then they had Jonathan Watts go down the line, and like he was hugging every other girl, like all next to him, like putting his arm over their shoulder, and when he got to me, he licked his pinky and stuck it in my ear, and because I was like the youngest there, and I was like, well, now they're never gonna see me as like the mature like love interest, because like it made me look like a kid, and I was like, I kind of knew from there. I was like, dang it. But But I was still really happy when it came out. I was like, this is new. This is maybe not what you wanted, but this is an opportunity to grow, you know? It's something funny. And that's how I try to take everything. Like if it's a new thing that you're not used to, then it's an opportunity to grow. Like, oh, you're not used to playing the villain? I mean, that's just another thing under your belt that you can say you've done. Like, oh, I played the villain. I played the good guy and the villain. Or I've played the funny comedic relief and I've played the serious character. And I've never played a villain. So I'm looking, and not to say that I want to play a villain.
That's what I was going to say. You think you could, or would you?
I don't know. I feel like if the role demanded.
I know you could. Sorry, let me backtrack. I know you could.
If it's so demanded, I mean, it would be out of my comfort zone, definitely. But it's just one of those things. It's not the role I always look at and say, that's the role I want. I usually see the lead girl or like the funny character and I was like, that's the one I want. But I do want to be able to say I've done it. You know, I want it under my belt. Like, you know, when you see the new season for this one, I want to come back and audition for Into the Woods. And automatically after watching the show, I'm like, Little Red's funny. Like, I want that. Or like Cinderella, like, I want that. Like, those two would be good. And I was like, but wouldn't it be so cool if you like got to play the villain? And then I like kind of put myself in those shoes and I'm like, but could you know, like, but I just want to have it under my belt, even if it's like a small, like have 3 lines, like if you're evil, you know, you can say you've done it. I just want to do
different stuff as possible.
Then you're like a versatile actor, and then you don't have to be as nervous every time you come in because it's never something you've never done.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And thinking about that same thing, something that I've seen here at the Holdback Stage over and over is, well, I say over and over, it's like far apart, but any show that we repeat, or if we do a show that was done at another theater in the county with the same, not the same cast, but some of our same participants are also involved in other theaters that are close by, like county theaters or regional theaters or whatever. So, like if a community college does a show and then the Holdback Stage does that same show a few years later or whatever, some of the same people are involved. Yeah. And sometimes they play the same characters. Sometimes they get to play a different character, you know, like if so Dax, who was the puppet operator for our Tui, our little pot plant in the shop. If we do Little Shop in the next, you know, several years or whatever, he may come back and be Seymour, you know, and he's been in that show. Yes. He knows the show. And he has a perspective, and then he could bring a totally different perspective, you know?
Yes.
Like,
it takes being in that show to realize, like, all the other fun parts you could play. Like, oh, if I was in that role, I would get crazy with it. Like, I would do this, that, and the other. And then you realize, like, that would be really fun, you know? Because, I mean, it's just one of those things you didn't know that you would like or enjoy until you're, like, actually there. Because, you know, you think you want the lead. Like, I went into the Shrek auditions thinking I wanted Fiona, and then I started reading for Donkey, and I was like, he's hilarious. And then by the end of audition, that's what I wanted. And then it was a new thing. So yeah, I think.
Is that the role you had for that show?
Yes.
Oh, that's fun.
It was Donkey. But yeah, I definitely want to do that again. I mean,
how okay, so question.
Yes.
How do you go into Shrek and not have Eddie Murphy's voice in the back of your head, like when you're trying to like create the donkey character? I'm thinking, like, how else do you even hear that?
Yeah, there's no other way. Like, even when you read the lines in your head, there's no other way to read it. Like, you hear it
like
either in his
Eddie Murphy reading the script to you.
It's him and like the guy who plays it on Broadway, who is basically reading it as Eddie Murphy. So like you can't even read it like parfaits. I love parfaits. It's like parfaits. I love parfaits. Like it's exactly like that as you read it in your mind.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it just comes out like that as you're saying it too, and you're like, wow, that's a part of me I didn't know I had. You've just seen Shrek so many times, you just have that part of you.
Those characters, that's one of those things. Can you imagine anybody else doing that? You know, like that's one of those things that, like Eddie Murphy, I can't hear anybody else. Now I hear you. I can next time I watch Shrek, I'll think, this sounds kind of like a knife.
That was probably, I don't want to say favorite. It's one of my favorite roles.
Yeah?
Yeah. That was definitely an experience.
If you got to do Shrek again, would you try to do the donkey again, or would you want to do something else?
No, I would that's one of the only absolute ones. Like, because I got to do Shrek the Musical Junior. If I got to do the full length one, I'd want to be Donkey. He's just so funny. And that's one of my favorite things to do is, like, if you can make an audience laugh, it's like the most fulfilling feeling ever. Like when your joke lands and you don't have like a dead audience and they're all laughing, it's like, oh my gosh, I did it right. I want to do this again. Yeah. And like Donkey, all of his jokes land, like every single one. And it's not just for the like, it's even funny saying them. Like, you want to laugh at them yourself. Like, you'll hear them laughing at you and you want to laugh too. And it's just, I would want to play Donkey. Like, even though he's not, you know, Shrek or Fiona, he's a fan favorite, and he's my favorite. So
I love that interaction with the crowd, and that takes personally, that takes me some time to get used to in every role, especially with like fellow cast members. If we have some dialogue that the crowd is supposed to think is hilarious, but we're just saying it right. So I don't know. It takes some rehearsal time for me to get there where I can do it straight, you know? Yeah. Like, I'm not one of those, I have total control over my laugh reaction or whatever.
Like when y'all did that spritz, like, yeah, that was hilarious. I don't know how y'all didn't laugh in each other's faces every time. Like, there were so many, there were so many times at Little Shop, I would see you and Ashley look at each other. I was like, how are they not like dying laughing? Like, literally on the floor. Yeah, when that happens, when something happens on stage that's just so uncontrollably funny. This happened in Hunchback. I remember Frollo was coming in, and Josh Quigley made the artistic choice. So he's literally just supposed to walk in and be like, you know, I found your little hideaway, you know, like, and it brings down the whole mood because he's obviously like aiming to kill all of them, you know. And it's this sad moment when he finds them because they think they finally found like a safe place, and then he finds them. Josh, he had this like cane type thing, and he did this skipping motion, and he was banging the cane while he was skipping on the floor. And then as he finished, he like threw his hands out. He was like, so I found your little hideaway. And everybody, the first time he did it, everybody busted out laughing. But then from that point forward, I couldn't look. When I knew his entrance was coming, I couldn't look in that direction. I would just look away. And it's still, knowing that it was happening, it was so hard not to laugh. Like, I think I just put
because you know other people are seeing it, and you know exactly what they're seeing. And you know what they're laughing at.
Yeah. So the guy that was playing my love interest, I just put my face in his chest like, oh, I'm so sad. I can't even it was really just because I was laughing. Yep. And I didn't want the audience to see because it's supposed to be a sad moment. And it was hilarious. It was so funny.
I had to do that a couple of times. Like, you're talking about those times, like if Ashley and I were looking at each other and not laughing, it's probably because I was really looking at the wall. Yeah. You know, like, just pick some weird spot on the wall and talk to it. Yeah. Because if I look people in the face and I see their eyes and I see the reaction, like while we're talking, then it's super hard.
Yeah. If I know I'm saying an awkward line or something that may sound funny, I always just look at their forehead. I'm like, I just talk to their forehead because I know I'm going to laugh if I look in their eyes and I see them make an eye or a different gesture, or like a look that they may be about to laugh, you know. Or if your counterpart, you know, forgets their line and you're trying not to laugh and you're trying to cover and you're looking in their face and you see this, they're trying to stay in character, but you see this panic across their face, and it's the funniest thing ever. Like, they're trying to look at you and stay in character, but you can see like everything that's happening in their mind that the audience can't see. They're like, oh goodness,
where do I go?
What do I do? Somebody say something. I can't do it. I can't think of what I'm supposed to say. And then you have to try not to laugh while also you're getting that panic too now, because you're like, are they going to get the line, or should I save it? Or like, do we just move on to the next part? Is it going to make sense? And then, I don't know. It always just fixes itself. Maybe after 30 seconds have passed and the audience is just like,
do we leave?
Yeah, like, is it over? But that's one of the funniest moments for me.
That's something I noticed during the junior show we just did, and it fit with the character because Willy Wonka is kind of like picking on all these kids that come to visit the factory one by one. And at one point he asks one of them a question and they're supposed to respond, but the kid didn't say anything. He just stood there.
Right.
And so Mitchell Duquette, who was Willy Wonka, said, "What did I just say?" So, I mean, it fit totally.
Yeah.
But he said that because the kid didn't respond with the line he was supposed to. So he just like picked it right back up, and he said it as a line of dialogue that made total sense. But it, kickstarted the kid's reaction.
Yeah.
And so he said his line after that.
You need people like that in theater who are able to, and Mitchell definitely is one of those people who can just think on his feet, like think on his toes, like just, hey, like, and then we'll make it funny. And the audience, I mean, they may have like a question of doubt, like, was that in the script? But they don't care because it's funny. Like, I mean, and then most of the time, 9 out of 10, they'll think it was part of it. And they're like, oh, I didn't even know you messed up there.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you forgot a line? It fit perfectly. But yeah.
I love seeing those things, like being in shows. And I've made the point before, but being in a show that's really fun that the audience seems to appreciate, and like it's hard for me to not see the show. You know what I mean? Like I'm experiencing the show, and I know what's funny, and I enjoy it every night. I enjoy it as if I guess I enjoy it as an experience, but I'm not getting to watch it as an audience member. I'm not getting to see what they see.
Yeah.
And I love seeing those little things like that and I wouldn't have known that had I not seen several rehearsals to know what was supposed to happen, right? I mean, it was so smooth. Even the response from the kid who initially, missed it, he came right back in, and it was like it was always supposed to be that way. So those acts are like always really like selfless to me, because like when you do those, like Mitchell jumping in like that, like it's always a gamble. Like it's a hit or miss. Like you never know if it's going to save the other person or it's going to like trip them up further. Or even if you say something that's not in the script, it might even like trip you up. It might mess you up, or like it may look like it doesn't fit. Like in Hunchback, we had one of our lead roles, her team made it to like playoffs. And so the last show ended up being one of her playoff games, and so she couldn't come. So one character, like one of our freshmen, he had to learn the role like on the spot. Like in a couple hours, he had like maybe 48 hours to learn it, because there was maybe like this uncertainty that she might not be able to come. And then he missed a line, which is, I mean, it was given. Like I would not be able to, like, if I stayed up all night, maybe I'd be able to pick all that up. But like, no, he did something amazing, and he dropped a line, and then so I picked it up, but then there had been time that passed, and by the time I picked it up, it looked like I had missed the line, And then it's just one of those things you got to take with a grain of salt. Like if that wouldn't have worked out for Mitchell, it might have looked like he said the wrong line at the wrong time, or if he said something different, like that was perfect thinking for him. But you just got to roll with the punches of theater. Well,
like, and
that
then
takes experience too.
His mom thanked me. She was like, it kind of, I was just so grateful that someone helped him out, because I mean, I could see that he was struggling, and then it ended up looking like you forgot it, and then you just kind of rolled with it, and it was fine. And I was like, this is the beauty of theater. And I was like, oh, thank you, ma'am, But, it's always nice, because you could always just leave them hanging and let them figure it out. But
you're on stage too.
Yes. And you know exactly how that feels, and you wouldn't want your co-stars or cast to leave you hanging. So
that's a scene that you're in, and a show you're in, and you want the whole product to be successful. So I mean, that's like the only choice at that moment, I guess. This has been a production of the Holback Stage Inc. and WBSL Radio. This episode was recorded in Alabama's oldest continuously operating community theater, the Holback Stage. Please, please, please take the time to visit our website or check the show description for a link to all of our social media. Follow us for upcoming events and announcements about how you can be part of our mission to provide our community with a positive outlet for the performing arts. Contact this show at holbackstagelive@gmail.com for sponsorship opportunities. Your name and message reaching our listening audience can be powerful. Thank you for listening. Keep coming back, and stay kind.